Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 4 of the Monday Q&As. So let's get to it. What happens to your natural insulin production after you stop taking large doses of insulin? Well, this depends entirely upon the person. This is again another risk. This is a reason I don't give advice, even in private, to people in general about using insulin as a performance-enhancing drug. Not only can it kill you dead, whereas in the number of steroid deaths per year in the world, even though we know tens of thousands, at least according to the records that we see from the traffic of it, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people use them, the number of deaths per year directly linked to them, you can count on one hand around the world. Insulin, on the other hand, can kill the shit out of you the same day you use it. You can die from using insulin for bodybuilding purposes or athletic performance purposes the very first time you use it, if you mess up. In addition to that, when it comes to the long-term health consequences, this is one of the things we get into. Even the long-term health consequences of abusing insulin seem to be riskier than abusing other performance-enhancing drugs, and this is one of them. And I have known bodybuilders who used pretty hefty amounts of insulin during the couple of years that they were competitive. They came off the insulin and they found, and this doesn't happen to everyone, but it does absolutely happen, and there are plenty of cases of it, they became insulin dependent diabetics, which meant they basically had to go on insulin and diabetic meds for the rest of their life as a result of doing this. So that is a factor to consider. It's something you got to weigh out. If you're going to go abuse something like insulin, you do have to factor in those risks, one of them being potential death, the other being you could become basically a type 2 diabetic for life. So that's the sort of things people have to weigh out. And another question you ask me is, do I personally use insulin? Hell no. Because to me, the risks here are just not worth it. It doesn't justify it. All right, next question. Hi Jason, whoa, you've got your work cut out for you with all these questions here. Yeah, I had like 300 questions this week. Looking at what your thoughts would be on training, time permitting, in little short bursts throughout the day using bodyweight exercises for muscle growth, as in training little yet often to promote, keep your muscle tension throughout the day. Hope this makes sense. Well, you should probably go read Pavel Tausalin's Greasing the Groove, or his stuff on the method there. You probably find it interesting. I will say that if you are not using sufficient workload to stimulate growth, this isn't going to do anything for you. But in his case, if you're doing, let's say, chin-ups, because chin-ups and pull-ups, for most people, are still taxing to do a few of them no matter how strong you are. But push-ups, for example, for someone like me with my pressing strength, you guys have watched me do full work sets of, over 300 pounds on the closed grip bench press with pauses. Those are my normal working weights. For me, I could come in and do 20 push-ups and it wouldn't do crap for me. It's just not enough overload there. So it depends on relative strength versus a lift you're doing. But if you're working with enough intensity, let's say a minimum of 50% of your 1 rep max, or in some cases 50% of your total reps, you would be there. So if you can do 10 chin-ups and you come in and you do 4 or 5 chin-ups periodically, which is enough to where it's not going to beat up your recovery much because it's like 50% of your total reps, but that is enough tension to stimulate new growth and adaptation, so you might benefit from that. But if you can do 50 or more push-ups, you're not going to see any benefit from coming in and knocking out sets of push-ups throughout the day. So it comes down to relative strength. And the other thing to always keep in mind when you do something like this is pay attention to connective tissue, because you are hitting connective tissue in the same joints and the same insertions over and over and over multiple times per day, day after day. So you do need to pay attention to those things and know when to back off so that you don't risk inflaming connective tissue or injuring yourself. All right, next question. Hi Jason, thoughts on Incline closed grip bench press? Useful tool? Thank you. Actually, I recommended in previous videos this list for boxers and potentially for some contact sport guys like American football players, rugby players. I think it'd be a useful tool. Now, as far as it being useful to other people, it really depends. I think it's an okay lift, but it depends on what you're trying to get out of a lift. Obviously, you would do incline when you're wanting to focus a bit more on upper chest and your delts a little more than on the normal flat bench. for whatever reasons, whether it's size or performance. But then by that same token, when you bring the closed grip in, you're putting more emphasis on the triceps and less emphasis on the chest. So it really comes down to what you're trying to do. I think for the right people, it can be a useful lift. I don't think it's a bad lift for anybody to do a closed grip incline, but you've got to just break down and assess what are your individual needs and what is it that you're trying to get out of the lift. You should never throw random lifts into your routine. Every lift that you do should have a specific purpose and role that has been thought out. And in this case, this lift works like anything else. This isn't a commonly done lift, but I think it's a good lift, and you've got to weigh out what are the benefits, what am I going to get out of this personally? Is there a reason I need to be doing this lift? And if the answer is yes, then by all means throw it in. You just got to look at your strength curve, your physique, what you're trying to do with any lift. But I think it's a good lift, and I think for certain sports it's a very, very good lift. Alright guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.